It's kind of wild when you think about it. A product can be dreamed up in California, assembled in China, and end up on a shelf in Brazil. It looks so easy from the outside, but behind every single global brand, there's a minefield of massive, high stakes decisions. So, how do they do it? How do they navigate these totally different cultures, laws, and economies? Well, let's break down the art of taking a brand worldwide. Take Hyundai, for example. I mean, today, they're a giant in the car world. But it wasn't that long ago that their name was basically a punchline for cheap, unreliable cars. The way they clawed their way from the bottom of the barrel to become this trusted global brand, it's one of the most amazing comeback stories in business. And it really shows you both the risks and the incredible rewards of going global. And that quote, it's not an overstatement at all. Seriously, in the early 2000s, Hyundai was stuck right at the bottom of the quality rankings. But by 2009, they were number 4, right behind luxury brands. So how did they do it? They completely tore up their old playbook. They rethought everything: quality, warranties, how they advertised in every single country they operated in. Their story just goes to show that a global reputation isn't set in stone. You can actually rewrite it, and rewrite it dramatically. And look, this whole idea isn't just for giant car companies. Globalization is baked into our everyday lives. I mean, just think about the example on the screen. A guy in an Italian suit, eating at a Japanese restaurant, probably about to go home and watch an American movie on his Korean TV. We are all swimming in this global marketplace, which is why figuring out how it all works is more important than ever. So to really get our heads around this, we're going to walk through the 5 huge decisions every company has to make. First, if you should even go global. Then, where to go. After that, how you're going to break into the market and what you're going to sell. And finally, we'll wrap it all up in a global playbook.
So let's kick things off with that first and maybe the most important question of all. Should you even try to go global? Because as tempting as it all sounds, it is an absolutely massive gamble.
And there's actually a pretty logical roadmap that most companies follow. And these 5 steps are it. We're going to use this as our guide, starting right at the top with that fundamental question: is it even worth going abroad? This slide just captures the dilemma perfectly, doesn't it? On one hand, you've got this incredible pull: more money, more customers, a chance to play on the world stage. But on the other side, the peril is just as real. You could completely misread a foreign culture, get tangled up in crazy regulations, or have your plans wrecked by some political crisis. It is a very, very tricky balancing act. And if you want a perfect example of those perils in action, look no further than the Tata Nano. This was billed as the people's car, a tiny car for just $2,500, aimed at people upgrading from a scooter. But the company totally misread the psychology. In a country where incomes were rising, nobody wanted to be seen in the cheap car. It became a symbol of what you couldn't afford. People wanted a car that felt like a step up, not a sign of their budget. It's a classic cautionary tale about what happens when you don't understand your customer. Okay, so let's say a company decides to take that risk. They're going for it. The very next question is, where? This brings us to the fine art of picking your battlegrounds. Now, when it comes to the pace of your expansion, companies usually fall into one of 2 camps. First, there's the waterfall approach. This is slow and steady. You enter countries one by one, learning as you go. It's way less risky and a lot easier on your bank account. Then you've got the sprinkler approach. Just go for it and launch everywhere at once. This is a must-do for industries like tech, where being the first one on the scene is everything. You can see this play out perfectly with KFC's massive success in China. That was pure waterfall. They went in carefully, they tweaked their menu for local tastes, and they slowly, patiently grew into the biggest fast food chain in the entire country. On the flip side, you have a company like Microsoft. When they launch a new version of Windows, they can't just go one country at a time, no way. They have to hit everywhere, all at once, to completely own the market from day one. And choosing those countries, whether it's just 1 or 50 of them, takes some serious homework. Companies are looking at everything. I'm talking demographics, the economy, the local culture, even the political climate. The name of the game is to find that perfect sweet spot, the most attractive market with the least amount of risk. Okay, so you've decided to go for it, and you've picked your spots on the map. Now what? How do you actually get in? This is our third big decision. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like climbing a ladder. The higher you go, the more committed you are. This ladder visual just nails the whole concept. The rungs down at the bottom, those are your low-risk, low-control, easy ways in. But as you start climbing up, you're putting more skin in the game. Your financial commitment goes up, the risk gets bigger, but so does your control and hopefully your profit. Let's take a quick look at each step. So the first couple of rungs are indirect and direct exporting. This is the simplest way to get started. You're basically just selling the stuff you already make, but in another country. You can either use a middleman to handle it for you or set up a small department to do it yourself. It's the absolute perfect way to just dip your toe in the water without betting the farm. Okay, moving on up the ladder, we get to licensing and joint ventures. And these are all about finding a partner. With licensing, you let a local company use your brand name for a fee. Think of a fast food franchise. A joint venture is a much bigger deal. You actually co-own a new business with a local partner. In both cases, the big idea is you're sharing the risk, but you're also sharing the reward. And then you get to the very top of the ladder, the big one, direct investment. This is the ultimate all-in move. You're not just selling your products there anymore. You're actually building factories or buying local companies. It is, by far, the riskiest option, but it also gives you complete control and the biggest potential payoff. And that brings us to what might be the single most important decision in this whole process. It's what I call the billion-dollar question for any global brand. Do you adopt or standardize? In other words, do you sell the exact same thing everywhere to be consistent and efficient, or do you change it up for every single market? You cannot talk about this without talking about McDonald's. They are the undisputed masters of adaptation. I mean, the core brand, the Golden Arches, that's the same everywhere. But the menu? Oh, it's a completely different story. In India, you can get a chicken Maharaja Mac. In France, they have Le McBaguette. Over in Egypt, a McFalafel. And in China, you can get a taro pie for dessert. They keep the brand consistent but adapt the product perfectly to local tastes. It's brilliant. And this adaptation thing isn't just about what tastes good, right? It's also about economics. Look at this known product in Indonesia. Milkwat is a milk drink designed specifically for people on a tight budget. But here's the really clever part. It has a 6-month shelf life. Why? Because in a hot country where not everyone has a fridge, that's absolutely essential. They adapted the product, the price, and even the packaging for the reality on the ground. But when you forget to adapt your message, the results can be, well, they can be pretty spectacular. Let's talk about the chicken company Perdue. Their slogan in the US was, "It takes a tough man to make a tender chicken." Makes sense, right? Well, when they translated that literally into Spanish for markets in Latin America, it came out as something like, "It takes a sexually excited man to make a chicken affectionate." It's a hilarious but super powerful lesson on why you have to pay attention to cultural and language differences. So, after all that, what have we learned? Let's try to pull all these ideas together into one final playbook with the key lessons for anyone thinking about going global. So here's the playbook, boiled down. Step 1, be honest about the risks versus the rewards before you even start. Step 2, choose your markets carefully and decide if you're going to go slow like a waterfall or fast like a sprinkler. Then it's all about climbing that ladder of market entry, figuring out how much you're willing to bet. And woven through all of this is that constant balancing act. Standardize for efficiency, but adapt for relevance. And maybe the most important rule of all, never, ever assume that what works at home is going to work somewhere else. And that really leaves us with one last big question to chew on. As technology and travel keep making our world feel smaller and smaller, what's the future going to look like for brands? Are we all just going to end up buying the same stuff from the same global companies? Or will the power of local culture and local tastes always win out in the end? It's that tension right there that's going to shape the future of global business.